The truth occurs. The truth occurs.
Hi everyone. Well, I have more evidence that the Occupy movement was engineered by the New World Order, basically to just further their agenda. First of all, someone recently told me about something that he heard at a seminar given at Royal Military College in Saint-Jean, Quebec. Back in 2003, members of a US think tank came to the college to do a seminar for the generals, to educate the generals on what was going to be coming in the future. And what they said was that the lower classes would rise up in indignation against the financial elites, which is basically what's happening right now. And they said that because the government would not allow military force such as martial law to be used, the social unrest would last for a period of maybe 15 years. And what they said was that if we were allowed to use the military, we could have an orderly transition. Why did they say an orderly transition? Transition to what? I think I get partly the answer to that question from this video, World Banker Makes Stunning Confession. This is James Wolfensohn, who was the president of the World Bank from 1995 to 2005, addressing students at Stanford University in January of 2010. And what he said basically was that right now the first world countries like North America, Europe, and Australia have 20% of the world's population but 80% of the world's wealth. And that there would be what he called a tectonic shift of basically wealth redistribution, resulting in developing countries having 65% of the world's wealth and the first world countries having 35%. So 35% for us and 65% for the developing world, which is a big shift. He says that soon India and China would overtake the US as the leader in the world economy, and that our standard of living would go down here. Our industries are all being outsourced to Asia, and that the Asian economies would be growing and benefiting from this while we would not be. And so what he's talking about here basically is massive wealth redistribution. And this isn't the first time I've heard of this. Remember this? The Copenhagen Climate Council who held their summit in 2009. Well, wealth redistribution was a big part of that agenda too. They were talking about first world countries getting a carbon tax and that money being sent to the developing world to help them out. So you see that this is a recurring theme. And while we're on the subject of the Copenhagen Agreement, this is from InfoWars. Copenhagen Agreement is a plan for world government. They point out the aim is to give a new, as yet unnamed UN body the power to directly intervene in the financial, economic, tax, and environmental affairs of all the nations that signed the Copenhagen Treaty. And might have sounded like conspiracy theory in 2009, but now, whoops, Vatican lets slip plans for one world government. This was from just recently. The Vatican was calling for a one world global authority to regulate financial markets and national governments, and also a one world currency. You notice the recurring theme? So back to the conference here at the Royal Military College in Saint-Jean in 2003, when he said if we could use martial law, we would have an orderly transition. Transition to what? Transition into the next phase of the New World Order, which involves wealth redistribution on a global scale. So you have these protesters who have now been steered into demanding more tax, which, as I've been saying all along, it's not going to solve any problems because it's just going to end up taxing, well, the middle class as much as the elites. But that money is just going to go to the government, who is then, going to send it back to the military or the corporations or prison industrial complex, or maybe even give it to the third world. But it's not going to make your standard of living any better. So again, I think that this whole thing is engineered. I think that the goal here is to give the people the impression that they are creating meaningful change, but the change was engineered all along, and it's basically just a wealth redistribution, and that we are, as the US think tank member said, in a period of transition. But I don't think it's going to be a transition into something that we're really going to like. So what do you think? Do you think that this could be part of their strategy, or do you still think that the Occupy movement is going to bring something, good, some kind of meaningful change and lead to a better world? Let me know what you think, and thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.